the backbones are just aesthetically nice. And this is basically a hare's ear pattern. So I noticed that when you buy a lot of the hare's ear dubbing from a lot of the retailers, they seem to put a lot of body fur in it to bulk it up. So you can buy all the hens and all the little dispensers. There seems to be a hell of a lot of body fur bulking it up. So what I like to do, and you really notice the difference, it looks amazing, is to get the proper hare's mask, and I'll basically sit down with a pair of scissors and trim off all up the ears and basically the fur in between the hare's eyes and sort of down to the nose. So you get the really nice, proper buggy, guard hairs. Also you have the under fur in there as well. If you really want spiky coarse, obviously you just go for the ears if you really want spiky coarse dubbiness. But the sort of the face hair on the hair is amazing dubbing. So we're going to use some of that. I've some of the dubbing I've bought, hare's dubbing, it's almost as if it's got like bits of twig and like plant material, and also I think they try and bulk it up with God knows what. So we're going to start off the first fly. So we've got size 12 wet hook. So I've got some black thread. So I'll just get some thread wraps on this. This is all trying to keep this fly nice and skinny, nice and sparse, nice and skinny. This is based on the Bob Barden anorexic hare's ear pattern, which is worked so famously amazing. This is a nice product I like using for a rib. It's the Uni Mylar, but it's just the clear. So it's basically just like a clear plastic. It's not got the not like a pearl shine to it or anything like that. So it's very subtle. Gives a nice little bit of shine. Sort of nice imitation of the gases in the body, but it's not too not too shiny. So I'm just going to tie that in. Not very well. Let's start doing that again. So we're just going to tie that in and work our way back just past the bend of the hook. When I'm tying, if I'm going to wind the rib in the same direction as the thread, I always tie the rib material on the far side of the hook. So when I go to start winding, my first wind goes underneath the hook. I don't know why I do it. It's the same. If I'm winding the rib the other way to the thread wraps, I always tie the ribbing material in on my side. So the first half wrap always goes underneath. I think Mr. Little does the same, but I don't know. It's just something I've got in the habit of doing. So this material is a little bit fat for a size 12, so I'll just give it a little stretch, just thin it down a little bit. And now we'll get some of our lovely home shorn hare's ear dubbing. Just to check it's, I sort of sit down in front of the telly, mixing, but just to check each pinch I take out, I'll just give it another little mix, just to make sure. The little clumps of underfur can sometimes stick together, and you don't want a clump halfway through your fly. So this is a great little pattern, obviously reservoir fishing, small still waters. It's just a really good little natural imitation of a buzzer. So we'll offer this up. So with me dubbing, just get one grind at the top. So I don't ever use wax or anything. The wax is all very good, but as soon as you introduce wax to a dubbing, you can't slide your dubbing then. So all I worry about is that spike at the top. So I'll just keep grinding that spike in at the top. Slide it up the thread, offer it up. Get our anchor point, so I get a nice turn right at the back. We've now got our anchor point and we can tease out. Same old story, I've got tons too much dubbing than I'm going to need on it. Already got 3 times as much. And then we can just work our way forward. If it starts looking loose or sort of a bit frayed, you can always just stop, tighten it up a bit, continue. I'm going to literally go right up to the eye with this. And then tease off what we're not going to use. So I mean, see, what I mean, very basic pattern. This is it. We're just going to rivet, and that's it. Thorax. So nice. Leave a tiny little gap. Just going to rib up through. So just a little bit of hare's ear pokes out between each turn. And then again, I'm going to rib it right up to the eye. And we're not going to go with any of this, nymph proportions, where you would say, obviously, 2/5, 3/5, or 1/3 and 2/3. With the buzzers, literally the thorax is tiny. So I'm going to tease that dubbing off there and start again. So I like my dubbing to be nice and light and airy. If you get air in it, it's easy to apply to the thread. As soon as it's screwed up in a ball, I find it's very difficult to apply. So again, we just offer this to the thread. Just grind that top in. I want to try and not get this as tight. The thorax, we want this a little bit looser. So again, we'll get a few turns, got our anchor point, and we can tease it out. We're in control then. And I'm literally just going to wind a nice bulbous thorax. That's it. I like to varnish my heads, but because this hasn't really got a head as such, I don't want to get any varnish in that lovely dubbing. You can sort of pick up and scruff up the thorax a bit. So I'll apply the varnish to the thread beforehand. Whip finish, sorry. And then just whip finish with the varnish thread. Make sure there's no stray fibres poking out, otherwise it won't catch a fish, obviously. And then I'm sure I've shown you this before, when last time when I was doing my river patterns, especially on lighter wire hooks, is there's no point in having a whip finish if it's loose. I always like to pull it tight, but especially with a lighter wire hook, so I don't have to worry about this. You can tow a car with this, but always put my finger on the eye of the hook and then pull the whip finish tight. So you're just supporting the hook while you're pulling tight. So that is our first really simple quick pattern. And it's you can, if there's any really straggly bits coming out of the abdomen, you can have a bit of a preen. But you want the thorax nice and buggy and bits sticking out. So it's based on the Barden anorexic Hare. He always tied them short on the shank. So he probably would have tied this size fly on a size 10. So you've got the extra weight of the bigger hook, but I just like the aesthetics of having it on the full shank. So that's the first fly.